So Katie, the 5-1
Yes.
ratio approach, can you first explain that and then talk about how you implement that into your coaching?
Sure. The 5-to-1 ratio means that essentially any comment that we receive or that I give as a coach to a player, that for the benefit of my coaching, if I'm going to critique a kid on some kind of technique, that one critique has to be balanced by 5 positive comments that have to be like very specific and real, and only then will the player then feel, assured enough to actually make the change as a player.
And do you use that every day in your coaching?
Yeah, so when I first heard about it, it sounded really overwhelming, like a lot of paperwork or something.
Yeah.
And I'll admit that I wasn't perfect about it, but essentially all it boiled down to is my assistant coach and I would sit down after practice, sometimes it was just a couple times a week, and we would just really quickly go over things we said to each player. And it's actually really pretty quick. I was able to remember. And it was interesting because we were able to find that, first of all, it was really tough to get to 5-to-1. And what I needed to do was just compliment more in the moment. I often had the comment, but I wouldn't say it. I think a lot of us are afraid that if we compliment players too much, somehow we're going to take off their competitive edge or something.
Right.
And I found the opposite to be true. The more I actually spoke about how well they were doing with particular skills, the more open they were and the harder they worked.
Ready to hear you and digest it, right? And that's the goal, right? Is that they hear you and learn from it and get better. David, one of the concepts that really hit home for you is allowing players to continually learn without fearing mistakes. And I always look at mistakes as like a gift, those little failures that you have to learn from them. So how do you implement that concept for your players? And what impact do you believe that has on them and their play?
So in baseball, it's the most obvious cliche, and it's talked about all the time. The best players in the world fail 7 times out of 10, and they're still successful.
Interesting.
So for me, it's teaching them how to come back and respond from failure. In basketball and football, other sports, they're a little more free-flowing. In baseball, you're a little bit on an island. If you make an error, you're standing out there alone at shortstop. You may not get an opportunity the entire game, or if you strike out, you may not get another at-bat for another couple of innings. So it's important to teach them strategies for how they recover. And this is the same thing in life, too. You go out and you make a sales pitch, you get shot down, you need to learn how to recover, learn from it, move on, re-engage, and readapt and readjust for the next time you're out there. So it's really finding those teachable moments and telling them it's okay to make failures. Failures are actually necessary. They're actually a necessary step to get to where you want to be in life and on the baseball field.
In your video, I thought it was really cool that young kid who was talking about the mindfulness techniques that you use. How old was he?
13.
13. And I do recognize, I have a 12 and a 10-year-old. I do recognize that our kids have a ton of anxiety right now, right? Expectations, perfection, all of those unattainable goals that they have of perfection. Talk about mindfulness and how that applies to baseball in your coaching world.
Well, it's just really important to be in the moment with what you're doing and not just be going through the motions during practice. Also, while you're at the plate, we ask the kids to breathe and check in with themselves, check in with their emotions. And once you're in control of your mind, I think you can be better in control of your performance. So we give them techniques, we give them exercises that they take home with them, whether it be visualization or meditation, but just teaching them to take a few minutes to themselves and check in with themselves and get off their phones and off video games and just take a moment to themselves. I think that's paid dividends. And I think it positively impacts performance for sure.
Yeah, and in school too, academics. Tawana, oh my God, I love that girl. Now I forgot what she said, but I think it was, you see in them what they don't see in themselves. Right? Had you heard that from them before?
No.
Okay, so just quickly, it's not in here, but quickly just tell me your reaction of hearing your players and the way they were talking about you on there.
Well, first and foremost, this whole process has been so surreal. But to hear her say that, a lot of times we coach and don't realize the impact that we have on these young kids, these youngsters' lives. And like we were speaking earlier, to finally be recognized for something, that we just passionate about, that we love to do, it's surreal. And to hear her say that, my heart felt like it was like,
It caught my attention. I want to be coached by you. I was like, I want to be a basketball player so badly.
Come on, girl, I'll make you better.
No, I didn't. she would. She would. See, she believes in me. She sees things in me that I don't even see. Okay, so it says here that going through PCA training, which was provided by your school, which I think is very cool, changed how you look at coaching as a whole. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for us?
What's funny is I still have my little toilet sitting on my desk. And so when the kids come by, they're like, Coach Flowers, why do you have a toilet on your desk? You got to flush it. But when we went through that training, it was a lot of mixed views from the different coaches. Coaches can be, whatever, they're different personalities. A lot of mixed views, but what I took from it was I'm a pretty intense person. You probably can't really tell from the videos, but I'm a really intense coach. And when I came into the setting that I was in at the private school sector, where I come from, basketball was it. You drive into our town and there's a big old sign that has
Fort Worth, Texas.
Well, I'm from Levelland, but I live in Fort Worth.
Okay.
Levelland, Texas, small town in Texas. We have 8 state basketball championships.
Okay.
And so when you drive into our town, then you have Levelland, Leavenworth, 86, 85. So
Right.
so I breathe basketball. And when I got into the private school sector, it was, okay, these kids are going to be your doctors, your CEOs. So I had to take a step back and say, okay, T, you're going to have to change your coaching. There's a reason why you're here. You have a purpose here. So you got to reevaluate yourself and change your coaching.
Yeah, I did hear on there that you applaud them and remind them it's okay to be smart.
Yes.
Which I think is really cool. I also am disturbed by the fact that we have to remind girls it's okay to be smart, but I think it's awesome that you do it. It's quite amazing. Okay, so Steve, once again, love the bow tie.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Your nomination highlighted the many ways you fill players' emotional tanks. I could already tell on there. I mean, that was so fun, and it's what my kids always talk about when they have a really great practice, is that it was fun, even if it was hard. So rather than motivating through intimidation and fear, tell us why you think this is so important in your words, and please share with us about your Trendsetters program.
Well, for me, you have to be able to connect with your players. That's one word that I've heard so often for PCA for this weekend is connecting. And if you can connect with the player and get on their level, then they begin to trust you. And they'll buy into what you're teaching. And I actually looked at a video from, I think it was a PCA coach, a former coach. He said encouragement is like oxygen. And that could not be more true. It's just like today, this wonderful banquet. I'm telling you, I'm sitting at a table with my beautiful wife and Steve Young's at the table and all of these trainers and people coming up and the applause and the encouragement. So when I get back home, my tank is full. I'm ready to go. I'm inspired. So I'm like, wow, imagine what my kids would feel like if, I exhibited that through them. So hopefully they'll walk away feeling the same as I'm feeling right now. So I'm fired up. I'm ready to go back to Homewood, Alabama.
Yeah.
And get with my kids.
I do often think it's so amazing. I mean, I had said before that I thought my coach, Richard Quick, could coach anybody. Biggest difference, you'd say, between coaching football and then track and field, besides the fact that one team has men and women, the other just men?
Football is a lot more aggressive. I think Steve would agree with me
just a
on
little
that
bit. Tackle track, that's a new sport.
Yeah. For both sports, to me, I'm very passionate about everything I do. With track, you have a lot of kids. We have 120 track athletes.
Wow.
And you have kids who are going to be all metro, and you have kids who will not qualify. They can't make those times. So trying to reach, like what David did, trying to spend time with each and every athlete to show them, you know what, you're just as important as my all metro winner. And for them to leave practice every day and feeling like, you know what, Coach Seals took the time to talk to me. Coach Seals took the time, even though I'm not the best athlete out here, he knows my name. He knows my strengths. He knows my abilities. He's going to help me with my weaknesses. And I think that's what I try to do.
Did you ever have an athlete on your team? I know, yeah, let's applaud that. Did you ever have an athlete on your team that really wasn't the best in any way, but was by far the brightest light and brought everybody up around them?
Okay, I got a quick little story. So we have a big game, a football game, And it's the team that we're supposed to lose to. They're bigger, stronger, faster. And this particular kid, he's small. He's not very, muscular. He's not the fastest. And he said, Coach, I don't know if I'm good enough. I'm not the best athlete out here. And he's, like I said, he's a small kid. And I gave a story to my players. I said, I want you, Summer, let's say you let me borrow $100.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I'll pay you back next week. So after a week goes by, it's storming outside, it's raining, and I see you coming to meet me. So I'm expecting my $100. Where's my money, right? You're expecting the money. So let's say I drop my wallet in the mud, I pick it up, look at you, turn around, walk away. Well, that's a problem because what you wanted was on the inside. You could care less about how the outside of the wallet looked. Yeah. You just wanted what was on the inside. So my story to my kids is, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you fit the bill. All Coach Seals wants is what's on the inside. And if you give me your best, job well done.
So good. You guys are so much better than my brother's soccer coach. I'm not even going to say. Seriously, I'm still upset about that, and I will not say his name, even though I memorized it. Okay, we're going to shift here, and this is really fun. It's funny, when I was reading about this, I was like, did Julie Foudy come up with this? Because it's really clever, and she's really clever. Sorry I keep shouting out to you, but I just love you. Anyway, I'd like each of you to answer these questions and try to limit yourself to 30 seconds or so in your answer. So just quick answers to my questions. We're going to go from Tawana down to Steve. First speed round question is, what are your thoughts about sport specialization? Boom.
I disagree.
Okay. There you go. So should people be in seasons?
Well, I have kids who are in basketball year-round, but they also play volleyball for our school. They also run track for our school. Okay. Building those relationships and also giving back to a community that has poured so much into them.
Awesome.
I think we want kids to have the most diversified portfolio possible growing up. Play all the sports, basketball, football, track, soccer. I think it's going to help all the other sports, your primary sport. I think around maybe 15, 16, if you want to play in college, I think that's about the time to focus on one, but that's not an absolute. A lot of times, some of the more elite athletes, they could get away with playing multiple sports, but the ones that need a little more focus, it might be okay to specialize. But I think the most diversified portfolio as far as many sports, balance of experience is best. And then as they get a little older into high school, I think it's okay to specialize a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that the more sports that a kid can play, the better. And I think there's very, very, very few kids for whom sports specialization works well. I think for most athletes, it really ends up being a little bit of a disappointment or a lost opportunity. I always joke that I just want to bring high school sports back to being the pinnacle of your high school or your athletic career, because that's what it is for most athletes. And so I think that encouraging the kids to just take advantage of high school athletics and to participate, that's probably the best outcome for them.
Yep.
This makes, 4 in a row. I agree with them. Play as much as you can. Have fun doing it. Build relationships. Each sport has something different to offer that's valuable. My oldest daughter, actually, she wanted to quit playing basketball. She played basketball, volleyball, and ran track. And she wanted to give it up in 9th grade and just focus on track, but we wouldn't allow her to do it. Just see her 9th grade through, and what David said, he said 15, 16 years old, so now she's an indoor-outdoor track athlete, so I agree.
Awesome. I changed up my mind. Now we're going to start with you, Steve, and then work our way back, okay? What do you do when you're not happy with how a referee, umpire, or judge is performing?
I let them have it. No.
By that, you challenge them to a dance-off. I know you. Dance off now.
I don't let them have it. Well, luckily, I'm around some amazing coaches, and they have a lot more passion when it comes to the referees than I do. So I'm normally the guys that's kind of pulling them back a little bit off the refs, but I got to admit, there was one situation in a championship game that we really got hosed on the call, and so I had to get pulled back. But I had to learn from that myself, and they make mistakes just like I do as a coach, and If I could take that moment back, I would, because, you know, the guys, they're always watching. The girls, they're watching. So that's something that I have to get better at during certain moments as well when you're in the heat of the moment, but yeah.
Katie?
Well, that's actually something where PC has helped me a lot. The concept of respect the game. And also just this idea, you know, because I'm really competitive like all of us, and you get fired up and you're in the moment. But just remembering too that like the life lesson there is like there's things I can control, and that's like my preparation and my athletes, and I mean like my athletes' preparation and the game plan. And there's things I can't control, and that's the refs. So it's just, you know, what's the point of railing against something that I can't control? That's just kind of an exercise in frustration, and it sets a bad example and all those things. But like you were saying, that was something that early on as a coach I had to learn the hard way, because we're all pretty competitive, and when you get a really bad call, it's really hard. But that's another thing I've worked out, like little rituals with my assistant coach. She and I help each other. So that's
really?
on the sideline to keep our cool. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on things that both of you said, but in baseball we always talk about controlling the controllables, and you have control about a lot of things in your game, the way you prepare, your attitude, your effort, your preparation, but you don't have any control about the umpires, the weather, the field you're playing on. So let's not focus on that at all. So we try to take the word umpire or official just out of the equation. We just don't focus on it, and if we're not liking the calls that we're getting, we just need to beat the other team that much better or be that much more competitive.
Is that what you say to the player when they come in to the dugout? If, let's say, they didn't think it was a strike and he called it a strike and he struck out? I mean, like, how do you talk to a player in that moment?
Well, I'd say, you know, well, there was a good pitch early in the count that we could have hit. Next at bat, let's go out there and let's attack earlier in the count and not leave it up in the umpire's hands.
Yeah.
Because you really have no control over the umpire. But you do have control over your approach early in the count. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Summer, I have a growth mindset, and I am still growing in this area.
Honesty. I understand. We all understand.
Listen,
yes.
I will say that I am better this year than I was last year.
I love it. Listen, when you're passionate, it's hard to just turn it off,
Yes.
even though you're coaching kids. We totally get it. And listen, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I know all about bad calls. It's my life. Anyway, what are athletes' biggest, oh no, this one was good. What can parents do to best support you and your program? You're going back with you too.
Oh, okay. Let the coach coach and you be a parent. And you know, I've had conversations with my parents. The kids hear enough from us of what to fix, and you know, they're getting coached for 2 hours a day when we have them in our hands. So when they come home to you, or when on the way home from a game, you know, just ask them how their day was, or you know, talk about the positives and the good things that you saw during the game instead of hearing the negatives, because I've seen what it does to a kid, and that's when they come in my office on Monday and they're in tears because of how the conversation went on Friday night on the way home.
And maybe respect the child when they say they don't really want to talk about it, right? Yeah, even though you as a parent do. Yeah, David?
I would go with the same response, but I'll go a different way. But I think it's important that we get less results-based with the way that we are, complimenting our kids. And it's not all about, do we win, do we get a hit? But I think there's an increase on focus on the process, the type of work we're putting in. Did you put in your best effort? I think those are the things that we should be focusing on as parents and coaches, and less about, hey, did we win the game? Did you get a hit? Did you make the basket? Hey, were you focused? Did you give it your all? Did you prepare the way that you wanted to? I think those are things that we got to focus on as parents and coaches.
Mm-hmm. Katie?
Yeah. What I encourage, I actually talked to my parents about this, but what I encourage them to do is just to affirm what the player did well, and to then kind of trust the process, and to try to cut off some of the negativity, just like you were saying. When kids, the sports are maybe like less important than their academics, but they feel it so much more intensely. And so like a bad experience on the athletic field can really just make a kid really upset. And I just always caution the parents to try to shift the conversation towards something productive. Who can you talk to? Can you go talk to your captain? Should you go talk to your coach? Just to try to get them to take steps. Because if we all learn to, instead of taking negative things that happen to us and complain about them, if we try to learn how to like take steps to fix the problem, that's just like a huge lesson, and also helps the culture of the team a lot. We all know that even like parents' negative talk can actually really bring down players, and it makes them feel really uncomfortable too.
Yep. Steve?
Well, I think parents are so invested because it's their child. You know, that's the most precious thing they have on this planet. So sometimes as parents, again, I had to learn the hard way a few times. You know, I wait and I tell my parents, give them 24 hours. Because one ride I was in the car with my daughter and she didn't take the shot, and she passed it, and the ball went out of bounds, and it was a turnover when she could have at least taken the shot. Just take the shot, babe. And I gave her a 20-minute tongue lashing in the car on the way home. And again, not getting on to her, but just trying to let her know, you know, be confident, But at that moment, she heard nothing I was saying because she was hurt. So, you know, my wife, she's good at giving me that love tap on the leg, like, Dad, that's enough. So I understand how, you know, parents are engaged, but I've learned, again, give them 24 hours, come back, talk to them, make sure you talk about the positives, and let them go to their coach for that. Again, we can't provide everything they need as parents. We have to let, as Tawana said, let the coaches do their jobs as well and help guide our kids.
Awesome. How about these coaches? Steve, Katie, David, Tawana, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much.